Welcome to the new edition of the ABBA League magazine. The 17th round featured a derby game between Cibona and Budućnost. Široki was trying to beat Szolnoki in the fight for survival. We paid a visit to the team from Bosnia and Herzegovina with the longest participation in the league and, of course, in the end, the best 5 actions of the round. Start with the news. Igor Kea became the first team this season to change their coach for the 3rd time. After stints from Dragan Bajic and Milutin Latincic, the bench of the Bosnian champion will be taken over by Vlada Jovanovic, the champion of the league with Partizan back in 2011. Cedric Oliver is not a Szolnoki player anymore. He was averaging 10.3 points and 4.7 rebounds per game before parting ways with the Hungarian champion. Široki parted ways with Franko Kastropil, whose average of 5.4 points and 4.9 rebounds per game wasn't enough to please his former employers now. He's replaced by a former Croatian national team, now 29-year-old Drago Pašalić, who arrived from Israel. Slovenian Basketball Federation officially presented Jure Zdovc as the new head coach of their senior national team after they parted ways with former coach Božidar Maljković. Zdovc was already in the national team of his home country more than 4 years ago when the team under his guidance achieved the greatest success in the history of Slovenian senior national team, reaching semi-finals of Eurobasket 2009. His contract is 2 years plus 1, depending on the success. Despite their team being unluckily eliminated from Eurobasket 2013 already in the first round, Montenegrin Basketball Federation decided not to take a change at senior national team's head coach position, and on Wednesday announced they have extended the cooperation with Luka Pavicevic for the next 2 years. And now let's take a look at the camp of Široki, which we paid a visit last week. Široki is Bosnia and Herzegovina's most successful team in the last 10 years, but this year it's registering the worst results since it has been playing in the regional championship. The team from Pečara Hall is at present firmly at the foot of the table, featuring 14 teams altogether. We were trying to find out what are the reasons behind unconvincing performances this year. We found some answers from the youngest player of the team.
We started the season well with 2 wins in 3 matches, but then we dropped in our form.
Realistically, we have been expecting we would fight for survival, but having said that, we weren't expecting we would do so badly. We thought we could win some more games, but luck wasn't on our side either. We'll do our best to better our performances and stay in the league. Somewhat more studious is the view of their coach, who has been leading this team for the past 2 months.
We
have many players who are experiencing this level for the first time in their careers. For example, Toni Katic, who came from Split, where he hasn't played that much in the last 2 years as he faced numerous injuries. And there's the homeboy, Domagoj Bošnjak, who is actually still very young, and his playing time is around 25 minutes. Ivan Buva wasn't playing much for Cedevita last year, and Robert Triković was playing even less. They're all guys with potential, but without any sort of experience. The team now faces even tougher challenges, as its most valuable member, Boris Barac, is injured from November still. He was our main player, the best scorer of the team. Most of the tactics was planned to his advantage, and now we are forced to play without him. I believe we've lost a couple of games for that fact alone. Because of that, and for some other factors as well, Široki was forced to make some expected moves. The roster is a bit changed now as some new sponsors emerged, so we could have afforded some better players who, in my opinion, will have helped us to stay in the league. But that might not be enough for them to stay in the competitions, as problems lie elsewhere. I expect the fight for a favorable coefficient between the teams from Bosnia and Herzegovina and Slovenia on the other side will be very tough and will go to the wire. We must win as many games as possible and at the same time make sure we are not last come the end of the season. Parallel with that, we will try to make sure that Bosnia also has 2 representatives next year as well. The director of the club has his own opinion regarding this ABA League rule, as he wishes those in charge will reconsider its value. My opinion is the league should be closed as it is for the next 4 years so that nobody could be relegated in that time. All of us at the club believe that it would be good for development of the young players as they would get their chances in their teams. This way they wouldn't be burdened with the pressure of imminent results. We could all have a bit more peace in working with them. Well, for that peaceful development you also need the financial backup, as this is probably the most important thing on the path to success. I would say our financial state is quite stable. We do have some problems, as do others, but I don't expect any additional trouble in that regard. We are servicing a number of debts, and that's why we can't invest additionally. The sponsors are of great help, as we receive very little help from the state.
Od države I od općine imamo jako malo.
There are more than 300 young boys in their basketball school, so it'd be a real shame for that background to disappear in the future. The sport in Bosnia and Herzegovina would no doubt be in dire straits, and that in a country which has bred so many exceptional talents in the past. MZT was hosting Cedevita in Skopje, as they knew they could potentially catch the league's forerunners by defeating the third-place team of the competition, Cedevita, and by that develop hope of reaching the Final Four tournament. It was the visitors with the first lead, courtesy of Nolan Smith, but it wasn't for long, as Damian Stojanovski was able to score for 3 in the very beginning. 11 points for him eventually. That was the start of a 10-0 run for MZT, rounded up by Todor Gečovski to make it 10-2. But Cedevita reacted well and retook the lead by 16-14 when Luka Babic was successful. The score equal to 19 after the first 10 minutes of play. Cedevita's latest reinforcement, Josh Selby, put Cedevita in front by 23-21, but then a better display by Martic's boys, who got away to a 6-point lead when Todor Gečovski scored for 3. A second three-pointer from Kirill Nikolovsky was the last act of the first half, which ended with MZT in front by 7. It was 40-33. 45-37 when Sead Čehović scored for the home team, but that was followed by a 12-0 run from Cedevita, which retook the lead by 49-45 when Miro Bilan scored. Then another swing in MZT's way and an 11-2 partial to make it 56-51. The third quarter ended with the home team 2 points in front after Marino Baždarić successfully beat the buzzer. It was then close in the last period, Aleksandar Cvetković securing the slimmest of leads with a 3. But then the guests took the initiative and scored the next 8 points, with Alan Ray putting it to 70-63. But the home team wouldn't just go away, they came back with an 8-1 partial after Čekovski scored and was fouled in the process. Less than 2 minutes before time, another lead for Cedevita when Bilan scored 2 of his 15 altogether. And that then grew to 4 points with just over a minute on the clock. It got even worse for MZT 20 seconds later. In fact, the home team wouldn't score anymore in the remaining time, which meant Cedevita reached its 13th win of the season. MZT remains on 7. Krka was forced to play without the injured Sani Bečirović when it hosted Mega Vizura, but the youngest squad of the league did have trouble of their own. Ratko Varda was missing, and so was Nemanja Krstić. The same ratio of wins and defeats for both teams before the game, 6 wins and 10 losses. Edo Muric opened the proceedings with a 3, but by that announcing excellent contribution of the evening, he will have finished with 23 points, a personal best for him of the season. The best in the opposition camp was Nikola Jokic. He was the first one to score for Mega, but then Muric was on 9 points already when Krka took the first significant lead when it was 17-6, 19-12 after the first period. Milan Milovanovic had a good display in the second quarter. He put Mega just 5 points behind, but the lead was soon bigger again as the next 5 points were scored by Jaka Klobuchar. The lead was also 10 points when Muric managed to beat the buzzer of the first half, 42-32 after the first 20 minutes. Krka scored 6 times for free in the first half, but the next 10 they missed, which Mega took advantage of and came within 7 points after Vasilije Mitic scored twice in a row, 15 points for him in the end. Still, Krka was nurturing an 8-point lead after the third period as Jaka Klobuchar scored. It took more than half an hour to get Nemanja Dangubic going, but he did score nicely for his first field goal of the game to make it 55-47, but then closed the gap to 6 when he was successful from the free throw line. But that was followed by a strong Krka reaction as they scored the next 8 points, rounded up by Erion Castrati. Tomasz Bolcina also with a solid contribution in the last quarter, and Krka raced away to a 71-54 lead. That grew to 18 when Edo Muric hit his third three-pointer of the night just 2 minutes before time, and the game was effectively over. 80-65 in the end, a 7th win of the season for the Slovenian champion after 3 straight defeats, a 5th successive loss for Mega Vizura, probably 16 turnovers and 16 missed free throws had something to do with it in this case. The Jezero Hall was the venue for the showdown between Radnički and IGOKEA. Nikola Kalinic was the first one to score for the home camp, and for the visitors it was Nemanja Gordic. This is Kalinic's basket, and Gordic's is coming up. In fact, that player contributed the first 8 points for the Bosnian champion, who took the lead of 13-8 after Siniša Štemberger was successful from the three-point line. But Radnički reacted well as they put together a 13-2 partial, Nikola Kalinic scoring for 3 twice in a row to make it 21-15. It was 23-20 after the first period, and Nemanja Gordic had already scored 15 points. Siniša Štemberger was deadly from the three-point line. He made 4 out of 5 attempts. But then another good reaction from Radnički. They scored the next 10 points and were leading by 6 when Mlađan scored for 3. Sava Lešić set the result of the first half, 39-32. The home team opened the second half well as Stefan Birčević made it 44-34, and then to 51-39 when Stefan Jovic scored. Both of those players having a very good evening, contributing 16 points each in the process. But Nemanja Gordic was the star player of the game. He made sure Radnički stayed in sight after 30 minutes of play when he made it 55-49. 24 points for him in the end. IGOKEA came within 4 points when Boris Bakic scored twice in a row, but Radnički was quick to reply as Stefan Jovic rounded up an 8-2 partial. Then 2 consecutive three-pointers for the visitors, which got them back to 4 points behind. But Radnički wasn't going to let the lead slip as they have scored the next 7 points. It was 76-65 when Sava Lešić scored and was fouled in the process. The same player then scored another 4 points, thus completely deciding the game. In the end, it was 82-67. Radnički had beaten IGOKEA for the first time in their history. It was an important duel between the 5th placed Cibona and the 4th placed Budućnost in Zagreb, as the last ticket for the Final Four is at stake. Nikola Ivanovic was the first one to score, and that was for 3 for Budućnost. He got returned though on the other side through Jarell Blasingame in the very next offense. 15-13 after the first 10 minutes, but then Aleksa Popovic started a run of 8 consecutive points for the visitors, rounded up by Suat Šehović. This is the end of that run. But Cibona wasn't going to let them go too far, as Jarell Blasingame scored to put the home team back into the lead just 39 seconds before the end of the first half, which ended with 29-28 for the home team. William Coleman opened the scoring in the second half and started a good spell for the visitors, who took the lead by 37-31 after Popovic's three-pointer. But then the next 8 points were scored by Cibona, and when Dario Šarić put Blasingame's assist to good use, Cibona was leading by 39-37. A double-double for Šarić in the end, 18 points and as many as 13 rebounds. By the end of the third quarter, Cibona reached its highest lead when it was 50-41, courtesy of its captain Marin Rozic. Then the first 8 points of the last period was scored by Budućnost, as it got to within just a point of Cibona, who needed more than 4 minutes to get going. But then it was for 3 through Ivan Siriščević. 4 minutes before the end, Blasingame managed to score in the last second of their offense. And then 40 seconds from time, Ivan Siriščević scored and decided the game. 65-55 in the end, a very important win for Cibona, as with it they have caught Budućnost in the table and staked a real claim for that F4 spot. The leading team of the league played host to Union Olimpija in the Pionir Hall, and it was of course a favourite to win. The tallest players on the court scored first. For the home team it was Boban Marjanović, and on the other end for the visitor it was Alen Omić. He was fouled also in the process. 7 consecutive points then for Crvena Zvezda meant their highest lead thus far, when it was 20-13. 22-17 after Luka Rupnik set the result of the first period. In the second period it was time for Charles Jenkins to shine. He scored the first 8 points of the quarter and took Zvezda to an 11-point lead. When it was 34-21 for Crvena Zvezda, Jenkins had by that time reached incredible 19 points. He would eventually finish with 23, a personal best for the season. Still, the team from Ljubljana was able to react, scored 9 consecutive points to make it 34-30, but they did drop off again. 46-36 after the first half, set by Boban Marjanović. In the third period, another 10-0 partial for the home team set their highest lead of the game, plus 16, when it was 54-38. Then 2 3-pointers in a row. After Salins, it was 54-44. The result of the third quarter was set by Alex Stevenson. It was 60-52. When Jaka Blažić managed to finally score from open play, Crvena Zvezda was already 18 points to the good. That was about 7 minutes before time. Then plus 23 for the home team when Raško Katic scored. He rounded up an 11-0 run. Zvezda's lead grew to incredible 28 points, just 3.5 minutes remaining on the clock, when Blažić scored his first and only three-pointer of the game. And it was of course decided 87-52 in the end, a painful defeat for Olimpija and Belgrade. Zvezda still top of the standings. In the Krešimir Ćosić Hall, Zadar hosted Partizan, who had previously beaten CSKA in the EuroLeague, but wasn't fond of last year's memories when they lost here by a single point. Still, the home team was on a four consecutive defeats before this game. Ivan Batur opened the scoring for Zadar, and for Partizan it was Geoffrey Lauvergne. When Ivan Batur scored twice in a row, Zadar was leading by 17-9. (19-15) at the end of the first quarter. Bogdan Bogdanovic then scored the next 5 points, and the black and white from Belgrade came within just a point to Zadar, but that was replied by 6 consecutive Zadar points to equal their highest lead thus far by 8 points when Šutalo scored. Marko Ramljak dunked very nicely indeed to keep the crowd going, and then it was Ivan Batur scoring Zadar's 4th three-pointer to set the result of the first half. It was 35-26, which was the highest lead for the team from Dalmatia. Then Zadar led for 11 for the first time in the game when Filip Kraljevic scored and was fouled in the process. This is the action. But Partizan then replied with 7 consecutive points. It was 38-34 when Dragan Milosavljevic scored from the counter-attack. 52-47 after 30 minutes of play. Zadar still in front. The last period was opened well by Partizan as they scored the first 6 points and took the lead after considerable time through Gagic's free throws. It took more than 3 minutes for the home team to get going in the last quarter when Josip Sobin scored. After a couple of free throws, Partizan was leading by 58-54, and when Toni Prostran put Zadar just 2 points behind. Then a couple of good offensive rebounds from the visiting team, who got away to a 6-point lead after Kinsey had scored. 18 seconds from time, Partizan sealed Zadar's fate by making it 64-56. The home team only managed 4 points in the last period, and that was their undoing. That was Partizan's first win in Zadar after 2006 and 13th altogether this season. Zadar remains at 5. So here are the results. Cedevita was able to break MZT in the closing stages of the game. Krka, a solid victory over Mega Vizura. An important win for Široki in the fight for survival over Solnoki. The same for Cibona in the fight for final 4 places. No real trouble for the leading team over Olympia. The top trio is still there, but there is a change in the 4th place as Cibona leapfrogged Budućnost. Krka up to 8th place, and Široki managed to get out of the foot of the table as Zadar is now the last place team. Our MVP of the round is Charles Jenkins, who reached 23 points in the 27 minutes of playing time against Union Olympia. He only missed 4 shots from open play and had 4 rebounds, 4 assists and as many steals in that time. So altogether a very good game for Jenkins. So time now to take a look at the best 5 actions of the 17th round. We start at number 5. This is one of his 4 steals in the game against Olympia. Charles Jenkins with a dunk. Number 4, we have dunking again. It was a nice action from Krka. Nicely finished from Edo Muric. At number 3, we have an action from the same game. At this time, it is Nemanja Dangubic from the opposing camp with a very attractive dunking indeed. This is number 2 from the game of Zadar against Partizan, Marko Ramljak. And our number one this week is this action from Cibona, a no-look pass from Jarell Blessingame to Dario Šarić, completing this very nice counter-attack of Cibona indeed. These are the pairings for the 18th round of the seasons. We start with Olimpija against Radnički on Saturday and finish on Monday with the game of Partizan versus MZT Skopje. And that's all for this week. Join us again for more action from the ABA League next week. But for now, bye-bye.